Hi everyone, I'm going to talk about the AFL and Aussie rules football in general. I used to watch a lot of AFL, like I watched many games when I was a teen especially, and when I was a kid. So I guess late 90s and throughout the noughties. So, 2000 to 2009, thereabouts, I watched a lot of games. So in about the last 10 years or so, I haven't watched as much. Mainly in the last 10 years, I've just been watching finals mainly, and that's it. But I wanted to talk about why I reckon the AFL has gone downhill, and friends of mine have even confirmed it with me. Like they've said similar things. That it's just not that enjoyable anymore. And I'm going to start off with the rule changes that were implemented at the start of this season, 2019. There were 9 rule changes that were made late last year, and at the time I was totally against it. I don't reckon the zoning changes are that bad as it's turned out, like the so-called 6-6-6 rule. But I reckon the bigger picture here is the fact that they even had to tweak the rules, and all this debate about the rules just shows how the game is kind of broken. Like in a lot of other sports. I'm not saying that other sports are necessarily better, but in most sports there's not huge debate like this. Like about the basic structure of the game, because these rule changes that were implemented this season, they're like the biggest rule changes since the centre square was introduced, which was the centre square is basically this 50 metre by 50 metre square in the centre of the ground. And that was introduced a few decades ago. I'm not sure what year. I'm pretty sure it was in the 80s or something. I could be wrong, but pretty sure it was the 80s, if not the late 70s or something. But yeah, that was like these were the biggest rule changes since then. And yeah, like I said, it shows how the game is kind of broken, and with all this tweaking. And I've had issues with it myself, like just the game. Like I don't know how to describe it exactly, but I just find it more and more boring over time to watch. Like I watched the first 5 rounds this year. This is probably the most footy I watched, in over 10 years or so. But yeah, like I did enjoy it to some extent, but it just got boring after a while. And I don't know what it is, but I just don't find it entertaining to watch. Like there's so many games that are lopsided. Like so many games that are already decided after half time. I mean, there are close games, like, don't get me wrong, like, last year's grand final was one of the best ever, if not the best, and I might be talking about that later in this video, but, yeah, so there are still close games, but, they seem to be too far and few, but they seem too few and far between, and, yeah, just boring in general, all these lopsided games. And like I don't know, like I just find it boring. And like with the rule, like a lot of people have been complaining about congestion. Like that's the biggest reason why they made these rule changes this year. I had mixed views on congestion. I don't reckon that's the only problem, really. Like, I think there's just a lot of other issues with it. But yeah, after watching the first few rounds this year, like the biggest beef I had with watching games was the umpiring. Like the umpiring is just shocking. And I don't know if this year is worse than other years because I haven't been watching much. Yeah, the quality of the umpiring, like in the first 6 rounds. I don't know, like all the rounds until the Anzac, because the Anzac Day game was the last game I watched. But yeah, the umpiring and all that time was just shit. Like, it was just total garbage. Like, it was inconsistent. Some teams were being favoured over other teams, like, clearly. I watched some games, you could just tell the umpires were favouring one team over another. Just blatant. Like, I'm not talking about, well, yeah, free kick count. Like, that does tell the story, but you know, like, they were obvious. You could just tell they were favouring the other team. And I've seen that. I've already seen a few games this year where the umpire's clearly biased against one team. And yeah, it's frustrating. And what else? Yeah, these videos are unscripted, so there's bound to be some pauses. I reckon I'm doing a pretty good job, though. Like, I reckon a lot of people couldn't do this. Just say stuff, you know, without a script. But in some ways, I kind of like doing it for now. Like at the moment, I'm doing it unscripted, these videos, because I find it's just a lot easier. I don't have to take the time to write a script. But anyway, what was I talking about? See, that's probably why I need a script, but I don't know. I was talking about the umpiring. Like, the umpiring is... yeah, it's just a total disgrace. Like, favouring certain teams, and a lot of them are retarded as well, the umpires. Like, they just don't know what they're doing, and the whole system seems to be a bit of a scam as well. Like, I don't know if they changed it, but apparently, like, last time I heard, the umpires are not even professional or something. Like, it just doesn't seem to be taken seriously enough. And yeah, I reckon the biggest blight on the game is the umpiring. Like, you know, the rules and that are fucked as well, but the umpiring, I just really don't like it. Like, it's... I mean, I know, yeah, like, it's just... It's such a blight on the game that I can't even watch it. Like, you know, I actually... I did want to watch games, you know, I was so eager. Oh, yeah, Thursday or Friday night, finally here, I get to watch some footy, but then they reach a time where, nah, I just can't watch it because the umpires are just going to ruin it again. So the umpires have ruined the AFL for me, you know, it's such a disgrace. And you can't just blame the umpires, it's, you know, the AFL themselves. And, you know, like, I've done what I can, you know, because I was passionate about the topic, and, you know, I sent messages to Patrick Dangerfield and a few other players that are involved in the competition committee, and, you know, I don't know if they would read it, or, you know, if they're going to take it on board, but there needs to be a lot more accountability on the umpiring. Like, it's as simple as that. And, you know, when the umpires do make right decisions, then yeah, maybe, you know, it's a bit hard for me to say, but maybe people should praise them more, you know. Like, oh yeah, he was a great umpire, you know. But then there's not enough accountability, you know. The only accountability that the bad umpires get is, you know, like loudmouths in the crowd, like, you fucking umpire, you fucking cunt, you know. That's the only accountability they get. And, you know, I wouldn't like to be yelled at like that either, but, yeah. It sounded convincing. Like, I'm not one of them either, but I don't yell like that at the umpires. But, yeah, they don't seem to be held to account that much. And, you know, the game is just going to continue on this trajectory if, you know, the umpires are not going to be held to account. You know, they're going to continue to favour certain teams, you know, like Hawthorn. And, yeah, it's just a total disgrace. And, you know, the umpiring has ruined it for me. There's one thing, though, I will say this about the grand final last year, like the 2018 AFL grand final. I reckon that was one of the best, well, in a while anyway, one of the best games I've seen where the best umpiring I've seen in a game in a while. Basically, they let a lot of stuff go. Usually that happens in grand finals, but personally, I like to see that more in the normal season, in the regular season, that the umpires just I reckon the way the umpiring should work, and some people have agreed with. I've posted in forums about this, like in the what is it, the footy? I forget what, some footy forum. If you look it up, it's one of the biggest footy forums. So I posted in there about how every game should be umpired like the grand final last year was, and how like, say if there's an incident, like, a slight hold, like someone just slightly grabs their jumper, or, like there's a slight push in the back, or, like there's a, how to say it, like the ball went out and it could have been deliberate, but it wasn't really, or, things like that. Basically, calls that could go either way, like 50-50 calls or whatever you want to call it. I reckon they should just let them all go, like things that are very light, trivial, stuff, they should just let go, let them play. And if something is obviously blatant, like, so they get tackled to the ground without the ball, or, it's a blatant push, or, blatant, deliberate, out of bounds, whatever. If something is obviously blatant, then yeah, they should give the free kick, obviously. But, those borderline calls, they should be all let go. And, I've had criticism about this view, like, from people saying, but, you're just not going by the book. Well, what would happen is if every call was called by the book, if the umpires called every free kick in a game, they'd be just, I don't know what, it could double the amount of free kicks, and to me that'd be just an eyesore. Like, I don't want to watch a game where the umpires are blowing their whistle every few seconds, it's just shit. And the reason why, I'm not saying the grand final was all great because of the umpiring, but I reckon that played a huge role, like the umpires just let them play, and it was one of the best grand finals I've ever seen. And all games should be umpired like the grand final, that's basically my view. And I reckon just as a spectacle, the AFL would be a lot better, like it would be a lot better to watch, it'd be more enjoyable, people wouldn't be so pissed off at the umpires all the time. It would just be a better spectacle. I'm just trying to think, because it's unscripted, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should add to the video or not, so I'm just going to ponder for a bit. No, I think I've covered pretty much everything. That's all I have to say for now. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and check out my other content I've uploaded recently as well. There's a lot of interesting stuff there. And yeah, when you subscribe, be sure to ring the bell so you get notified whenever I upload new videos. So yeah, there'll be more videos coming soon.